Hello, everyone. Today we are going to discuss about the goods of marriage. When we talk about this particular topic, it is inevitable for us to talk about Saint Augustine. One of the greatest saints of the church was Saint Augustine. Saint Augustine's life offers us great hope for our own salvation, and his example should do the same for us. And his life before his conversion actually was filled with sin and a refusal to see the truth. With God's grace, he found his way to the truth of Jesus. It's concrete proof that even the worst and the most stubborn sinner can actually be redeemed. Saint Augustine was born on November 13, 354 in Tagaste, Numidia, which is modern-day Algeria in northern Africa. His parents were opposites in nearly every way. The mother, who was Monica, was a mild-mannered devout Christian, while his father Patricius was a pagan with a violent disposition. Saint Augustine had a brother whose name was Navigius and a sister whose name was Perpetua, a dedicated virgin. The family was not rich, but was of an upper class citizen known to be honorable people. They spoke Latin and had full Roman citizenship. Augustine's family status in life provided him the means and the freedom to pursue education and other ambitions. His mother taught him the Christian faith and how to pray, but he was never baptized because his father would not allow it. When Augustine was old enough, he went out and immersed himself in the world, going against everything Monica had taught him. At 11, Augustine was sent to a school in Madaurus, about 19 miles away from home. He learned about Latin literature and pagan beliefs and practices. It was here that he started finding trouble and sin. In his autobiography, Confessions, he tells of a time when he and a group of friends became thieves just for fun. They found a pear tree in a neighborhood garden and picked all the pears they could carry. Augustine admitted he committed the theft not because he was needy or even liked the taste of the pears, but because he did not want to do what was right. He said he had a lustiness of iniquity. He stole things even though he already had them, doing it because he could and he enjoyed doing it. You know, the love of sin grew in Augustine. At age 17, he went to Carthage to study rhetoric. It was here that things really got out of control for Augustine. The young men around him lived hedonistic lives and bragged about their sexual exploits. Not wanting to be left out, Augustine joined in. He was eager for his actions to impress men rather than be pleasing to God. He set aside everything his mother had taught him. Carthage was not at all bad for Augustine, though. He developed a thirst for truth during his education there and became interested in philosophy. And that thirst for truth would eventually lead him to the truth of Christianity. But first, he would stumble down a few rocky paths. His mother continued to pray for her son and prayed for him to return to God. It was in Carthage that Augustine met a woman and started an illicit affair with her that would last over 15 years. That woman bore him a son, Adeodatus, who died in his teens. From his confessions, Augustine admits he resisted married life and instead sought illicit pleasures such as this relationship. And fortunately, there was no one around Augustine in Carthage who was interested in helping him to return to a moral life. Augustine abandoned Christianity then and completely became a Manichaean. What is this? Manichaeanism is a religious system that ascribed to a dualistic conflict between light and darkness, between physical and spiritual. A central feature of Manichaeanism is the theory of two eternal principles, good and evil, and its emphasis on dualistic cosmology, which is basically a struggle between forces of good and evil. Augustine moved to Rome after over 9 years in Carthage. In Rome, he became skeptical of Manichaeanism and he turned away from it. The story of Augustine is actually a story of hope. Believe it or not, God was just waiting for Augustine to choose him. God would put someone in his life to plant a few seeds that would lead him to himself. And that someone was Saint Ambrose of Milan. Augustine's story takes a turn for the better. You know, in Milan, Augustine came in contact with Ambrose and was captivated by his speaking abilities. He was not initially interested in the topics Ambrose spoke about, which usually centered on Christianity, but the truth is hard to avoid. As time went by, Ambrose's message began to pierce through the walls Augustine had erected over many years. It took one divine moment to bring him all the way past his pride, to see the truth of God and to convert to Christianity. He was sure he could not become a Christian because he could not live a morally pure life. But someone told him about that conversion is possible. And God is actually waiting for his return. You know, if you feel torn between the allurements of the world and the promise of salvation, you are not alone. We all feel that. But the Lord is always seeking you. He is always planting seeds and putting people in our lives who can bring us back to him. We must reach out to God. We must put aside our pride and our love of our sin. We have to choose the good and choose the Lord. If Augustine can do it, we can too. In fact, he is very much known for the saying, "Our hearts are restless until they rest in you." Saint Augustine died last August 28, 430, and he was canonized by popular acclaim and made a doctor of the church by Pope Boniface VIII in 1298. He is the patron saint of brewers, printers, and theologians.